Hi, this is Tara. Today let's study Sutra number 34. Pracchardana-vidhāraṇābhyāṃ va prāṇasya. What does it mean? Pracchardana is elongating the exhalation. Vidhārana is retaining. Va or prāṇasya is breath. So, how does Maharishi Ved Vyasa explain this? He says, optionally by the expulsion and retention of breath. So, what is pracchardana is elongating the exhalation. So, deep exhalation and deep retention. So, this is his simple surface explanation. But the sutra is actually far more complex than that. Let's see what Swami Satyananda says. He says, all by expiration and retention of breath, one can control the mind. So basically, what is Patanjali doing? He is giving options. If this doesn't work, you can try this. If you're not able to continue practice, focus on the pranava to remove the obstacles. If you're not able to do that, you can also do the expiration and retention of breath, that is pranayama. In advanced stages, it is pranayama. Over here, he's giving you the first step. So, Swami Satyananda explains that temperamentally, not everybody is able to surrender to God. Not everybody is able to do Ishvara Pranidhana. So, even if you believe in God, you may not reach that stage of surrender. So many of us know, we even have gurus, either of yoga or meditation or some other practice, and we may be following them. But it takes time for you to reach the stage where you can say, I am completely surrendering to this person as my guru. So for such people, Patanjali gives a way by which the mind can be made pure and brought under control. So he says, some of us are dynamic by temperament, some of us are emotional, others are still, mystical, and some are rational. So according to each person's mindset, the solutions are given. So for the dynamic person, he recommends karma yoga. For bhakti is better for those who are emotional. Mystics are more prone to practice Raj Yoga, Hatha Yoga, Swara Yoga, Kriya Yoga, all these yogas. And the fourth type are the Jnana Yogis. They like to read, the Upanishads, the Gita, the Shastra, follow things to a letter, understand, focus on the universe, the sources of the universe, and meditation, those kinds of things. So each of the solutions, why is Patanjali giving us so many options? It is because depending on what is the student's mind, you have to choose that option. That path will work best for you. So, or it could be that, you need a mixture of practices. So, beginning from the Videha and the Prakriti Laya yogis that we studied, Patanjali has described various types of sadhana. So, Swami Satyananda says, understand the meaning of pracchardana and vidhārana. Pracchardana means exhalation, latter means holding breath. But together, these constitute the Mahabandha, which includes performing the three bandhas together. That is the Jalandhara, the Udayana, and the Mula Bandha, while doing Kumbhaka. So the beginner should not be taught the Mahabandha. He should only do Rechaka, that is exhalation. And he says you can do this 21 times, 51 times, 100 times. And you may, practice this as Kapalbhati or Agnisar. So just by practicing this Rechaka, Kumbhaka, and the three bandhas, the mind can be brought to a state of stillness. So Swami Satyananda gives a very, very detailed explanation. If you're interested, you should definitely pick up his book and read it in this particular sutra especially. And he says that consciousness has two supports, that is prana and vasana. And these are the supports on which the mind rests. Prana is gross as well as subtle. And the subtle prana is the form of energy, and the gross prana is the form of breath. So basically, it is breath is gross. Once it goes inside, it gives the body energy that is subtle. And there are 5 major pranas. These are prana, apana, udana, samana, and vyana. And then there are 5 minor pranas, and these are devadatta, nada, kurma, krikara, and dhananjaya. They're all responsible for different activities in the body. And prana is responsible for inhalation. And so prana basically is the force behind, mouth and nose, the digestion, how the digestion sort of separates food into water, fiber, all these things that the body needs. All of it is prana. Apana brings about excretion and throws away the impurities from the body. It is the detoxification force. And its region is from the navel to the soles of the feet. Okay. So it brings about downward movement. Samana is in the limbs and in the nadis. It works with the heart, the navel. Udana maintains muscular strength. It is responsible for the removal of the karmic body from the gross body at the time of death. So by controlling Udana, the yogi can travel in the air. This is what the yogis say. It acts from the throat to the head. Vyana causes the circulation of blood and moves through the nerves. It is situated in the anal region. So among the minor pranas, Nada brings about coughing and sneezing. Kurma causes contraction, while Krikara brings about hunger and thirst. The action of Devdatta causes drowsiness, sleep. Dhananjaya maintains nourishment. So each of the pranas have minor and major, gross and subtle, has very specific functions. So in addition to these, there are 15 currents of prana called the nadis. So I'm not going into each one. You may have heard Sushumna, Ida, Pingla, all of these. There are 15. So in fact, there are 15 major nadis, but there are actually 72,000 nadis in the body which carry the finer sensations. Okay. Of this, the 3, Ida, Pingla, and Sushumna, are very important in yoga. Sushumna is the most important. It is situated at the center of the spinal cord, and it starts from the anus and goes to the Agnya Chakra or the medulla oblongata. So the 3 nadis arise from Mooladhara, which is called Mukta Triveni. So these are like much more complex. You may want to study them in detail. But what he's basically trying to explain is this is a very complex internal structure, both gross and subtle. So the breathing process, he's saying, has a very definite timetable. Okay, it is influenced by the moon. It is the movement and control of swara or breath is influenced by the moon, and breath has a direct effect on the individual movements. It controls thinking, it controls digestion, it controls the flow of prana. So prana is very, very important. So he says even after each hour, the breath changes position in the nostrils. So during the change from Ida to Pingla, from Pingla to Ida, Sushumna flows momentarily. So it is the transition. And it is at the time of Sushumna that meditation is the strongest. So it's a very complex ecosystem that is, I think, beyond most of us who are just practicing at a very base level. So do pick up Swami Satyananda's explanation and read it thoroughly. And I think as we progress in the practice, this becomes a little more clear to us. Swami Vivekananda says, by throwing out and restraining the breath. The word used is prana. Prana is not exactly breath. It is actually the energy, the metabolic primal energy of the body and of the universe. So whatever you see in the universe, Swami Vivekananda explains, whatever moves, whatever functions, whatever's living, whatever's sentient, all of it comes from prana. So the prana before a cycle begins remains in an almost motionless state. And when the cycle begins, this prana begins to manifest itself. So it is this prana that is manifested as motion in human beings, in animals, as thought, So and Swami Vivekananda explains very nicely that the universe is a combination of prana and akasha. And out of akasha, you get the material materials of the universe. And out of prana, you get the force that moves the material. So, very beautiful and very complex explanations for what seems like a very simple sutra. So, when he says that, he's not yet come to the stage of explaining pranayama. He's saying that you simply throw the air out, draw it in, hold it for some time. That's all. And by that, the mind will become a little calmer. So, for your everyday agitations, for the purpose of this sutra, you practice this control of the breath, the regulation of the breath, and it will later evolve into what is pranayama. Okay. So, and he also explains that prana is used of all the senses. They are all called prana. Mind is called prana. So, we see that prana is basically a kind of force. But the force is only still a manifestation of prana. So, prana is both the latent as well as the, manifest. So that comes as you understand the nadis and this complex structure. For now, it is not even pranayama yet. It is just the regulation of breath. BKS Iyengar says, by maintaining the positive state felt at the time of soft and steady exhalation and during passive retention after exhalation. Why is the or so important? Because Patanjali is giving you another option. So he says another possibility of diffusing consciousness is the attainment of the sense state by the retention of breath after exhalation. And in this and the following sutras, several alternative methods of calming the mind and preparing it for spiritual evolution are given. So inhale, exhale slowly, pause, maintaining the retention for as long as is comfortable. The emphasis is on drawing out the breath. This practice ensures a state of consciousness which is like a calm lake. Osho explains that the mind can become tranquil by alternately expelling and retaining the breath. So, what is Patanjali saying? He's saying that, if you're not able to use the other methods, try this method. So, enter through the physiology, Osho explains. This is entering through the mind. That is first, and then the second is the physiology. So, try and focus the mind, concentrate the mind, try and use the pranava. Not working, use the physiology. So, breathing and thinking are deeply connected. Okay. So, he says that depending on what you're thinking about, your state of mind changes, your breath changes. You get angry, you're thinking about some insult somebody has given to you so many years ago. Today also that has the capacity to make you feel depressed, sad, angry, fearful. So he says, don't change the breathing. So the Buddhist approach to breathing is generally to observe it. The Hindu approach is or the Sankhya approach is to regulate it. So over here, Osho uses the Buddhist approach and he says, just observe the breath. You don't even need to regulate it. The reason why he says this, both techniques are valid. All techniques are valid because the gurus and the rishis have all experimented with these and then they have handed these to us as solutions. So why are both valid? Because what he's essentially saying is don't have a contrived breath. As your mind becomes calm, you will notice that the breath becomes deep and long. Okay. So, and this will in itself create tranquility. So, tranquility is indicated by the length and the depth of the breath and the slowness and the pace. And the slower and the more deep your breath becomes, the more the mind becomes tranquil. So, both are essentially saying the same thing. So, take it throughout the exhalation, prolong the exhalation, prolong the inhalation. This exhaling, inhaling cleanses the whole body. Okay. So, you can basically just use this as another technique whenever you are unable to concentrate the mind. Barbara Stoller Miller says, or through the measured exhalation and retention of breath, she translates it as a simple technique by which the mind can become concentrated. This is Sutra number 34. Hope it's useful to you. Do like, share, subscribe, and do come back tomorrow for Sutra number 35.